Hi, my name is Babu Karsi, welcoming you to another edition of The Viewpoint, coming to you on QTV. Thank you so very much for joining us, and happy to invite members of The Gambia Has Decided, who have recently changed to The Gambia We Want. On my immediate right is, well, will I say lawyer Salutal or just Salutal? You know, he's on my immediate right. Thank you so much for coming. Babu Karnyan, Tom, thanks for coming, and well, Mbasi Mane.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Viewpoint, I will say.
Thank you very much. You could just call me Sal.
Sal.
That would do. I'm not here as lawyer.
Lawyer Sal. Okay, exactly. Thank you so very much, guys, for coming. And we definitely opening this forum, you know, to be a discussion forum, you know, looking into from The Gambia Has Decided 2016 to now, and well, with the new thing that I'm saying, Gambia We Want. We will come to that shortly. Let me start with you, Mr. Tal. The Gambia Has Decided thing. No one will mention about Gambia Has Decided without mentioning your name, you know, and how it came about. Let's just, for the records, what really motivated you, or as part of the co-founders, to come up with this name, Gambia Has Decided?
I think, I mean, I was motivated by the fact that I felt that as a Gambian, I mean, after having gone through a very difficult period of time, 22 years of a very, very terrible dictatorship, we had the opportunity to change the course of our history and our destiny through the ballot box. And a lot of Gambians, including myself, voted for change. And I'm sure you were around, and you can see the night that it was announced that that ex-president has conceded, the excitement, the euphoria. I mean, that feeling, I cannot describe it. Only for a few days later, for the ex-president at the time to decide to take our voices. So I mean, I was very frustrated, and I was following social media, and I saw a lot of Gambians were frustrated, and I thought that, I mean, we cannot allow this to happen. For 22 years we've allowed this. This is a time that we have to ensure that our voice is heard, that our voice is not taken away. So that was, for me, that motivated me to basically call different people who are leaders in different society. There are leaders, youth leaders and other leaders, to my house, and I told them, look, what are we going to do? Are we just going to sit and wait and allow our voice to be taken? And through that discussion, we came up with a hashtag together as a team. We were a core team of about 10, and then it was easy for us because there was already a hashtag that was trending on Twitter, Gambia Decides. I think it was started by Said Mati Jau. And in fact, when we had the meeting, we had two hashtags. Jammeh was Go and Gambia Decided. So when Gambia Decided was floated, it just was a no-brainer. It was just perfect hashtag, because it actually captured the moment. And in fact, we called Sid Mati and informed him that we want to, even though you're using Gambia Decide, we would like to use Gambia Decided. And you know, he agreed. And then there we go. We just right there, one of our members, Rafi Diab, called his graphic designer, and within, I think, a short while, I mean, a design was sent, and then right there we changed our DPs, and the rest is history.
If I understand you very well, this idea came about after former president refused to step down.
Yes, exactly. It came right after, a few days after the former president decided to unilaterally cancel the elections. And we said, no, we have already decided. You can't do that.
Was it not risky at that time, knowing that, you know, the length and breadth of the country was full of armed security, and he was definitely ready to stay behind?
Oh yes, it was very, very risky. And I remember at our second meeting, and these were young Gambian men and women, I told them that anyone who basically does not want to take the risk, anyone who doesn't want to die or go to jail or lose their property, is at liberty to leave the room, because the journey we're about to take is a serious one, and it's very, very risky, but we have a higher calling. At that time, our call to duty was much higher than the risk at that time, and we thought we could do something, and we had to do something. So for us, that overruled any sense of fear we had. At that point, the Gambia had already covered that fear. If you remember at the time, there were a lot of military people in all the checkpoints. But people were going out celebrating every night. That, I mean, Jammeh's power is over. That after that announcement, the whole myth around Jammeh was demystified. People were no longer afraid. So for us, even when we used to joke about the soldiers, are they for us or for Jammeh? That was the joke. We were not afraid.
But also during that moment, they were, as you rightly mentioned, Rafi contacted, his designer, and then the hashtag came out. People that were printing T-shirts, some of them, were arrested, some of them were beaten.
Yeah.
With all that risks, you guys came out. It was a successful one, I would say. Gambians, came out, and finally, after negotiations, Jammeh left. But since then, what have we really decided? That's the question I want to ask you. What have we really decided?
Yes, I think that's a very important question. In fact, when we started Gambia Society, we, as part of the brainstorming, we wanted to interrogate what is it that Gambians have voted for, because not many Gambians have really had a chance to look at the coalition, MOU and other things, all the documentations. They didn't really know. Most Gambians wanted Jammeh out, basically, and the coalition was the right vehicle for that. But for the first time, our political leaders united united to defeat Jammeh. So we also thought, let's ask ourselves, what is it that we are voting for? So if you can, so in fact, at the back of this T-shirt here, these were some of the words that we thought about. We decided for our dignity, our freedom, peace, unity, justice.
I'm sure you thought that for the camera to cover it.
So you can see that. Okay. So these were some of the words that we just came about.
Okay.
And of course, first and so this is what the democracy that we were talking about represented: dignity, freedom, peace, unity, justice, transparency, one Gambia as a united Gambia, and development. So so for us, these were some of the values we thought that and believe that the change should bring about. But obviously, it's been 2.5 years down the line, and obviously, it's a different story. It's a different story. So we believe that we have decided for change, but the Gambia that the engine of change have brought about, the Gambia we want, what is it? This is the conversation that we want Gambians to want. This is not a conversation that will come top down from the politician. It should come bottom up. The citizens should define the Gambia we want, and we have not had this conversation yet.
Okay, I'll come back to you shortly. Mbasi, since Jammeh was hosted via the ballot box, we said Gambia has decided, and I will still continue asking this question: what did we really decide on? I don't know. Many people are saying it's the same thing, nothing have changed. I want to disagree, but are we on the right track?
Well, that is it's a question that is it is contestable to say whether we are on track. Some will say yes, we are on track, and some will quite disagree. But looking at the trend, like Sal said, what we have decided on, I think I need not to emphasize on some of those things. And for the fact that we all know what we've decided for, we need, Gambia have decided for peace, justice, dignity, and development. But as it stands, looking at what is happening right now and looking at the trend, I will say I am not happy with the way the country is going. And coming back to your question, you said whether we have, what did you say?
Are we on the track?
Are we on track again?
Are we on track?
Okay. I will not say we are on track. Looking at what is happening right now, we need development-oriented leaders who can at least drive the change that we want. Because the reason why we ousted Jammeh, we voted Jammeh out, some of the things that we are seeing right now. We have seen our young people now turn to political, how to call it, tools. And we've seen the Barrow Youth Movement, we've seen young people who are not, they're not meaningfully engaged, and still we will say young people are the future leaders. And right now we are seeing our political leaders going to rallies, threatening us. And when we all know that we are not in election, we are not in political
this is what
campaign.
we have decided.
So we need a direction, and we need someone to tell us where we are heading to. So looking at the government itself, sometimes people will do say, I could remember our last interview here, our last talk show. You did say we talk about the government a lot, and all we talk about is the negative side of the story. And this is not the case. If what we voted for, we are not seeing that, and I think we should talk about it. we are whistleblowers. We should talk. We should remind the government what they should be doing. So if the government comes with promises that they itemize or outline in the National Development Plan, and we are not seeing that, I will not say the government is on track, because you conducting rallies here and there, having a ping pong with other political leaders, I think it is not what we voted for. And of recently, we've seen people who have assembled being arrested. It is not something that we've voted for. We voted for a change. We voted against dictatorship, and we are afraid that, dictatorship might come up anytime, because the Gambia.
It's too early to suggest it again. Just 2.5 years.
It's people who make dictators. It's people who make dictators. Jammeh came when there was freedom of expression. Am I not right? During Jawara's time, So he studied the environment, he tested the waters, and succeeded. So Barrow is still doing the same thing. And I'm sure you are aware of the rally that took place at Brikama, where our ministers went there, the president went there threatening people's life. They brought our water cannon to threaten people's life. So it is going to continue if we did not talk about it, if we did not condemn it. We all know that the Constitution guarantees the right to assemble, freedom of expression, despite the fact that we have a Public Order Act that contradicts the Constitution itself, or that violates the Constitution. So I will not say that we are going on the right track. Development is a process, and it should have a starting point. So if it is not going, it is not starting at the right, where it should start, you will not know the end point, and you will not know where it is heading to. So it is our duty as citizens of this country for us to, to redirect the government, sort of. And like I said, the government is people. Barrow alone is not the government. The people who are there, we put them there, and they should understand that the power belongs to the people, and it can be taken.
I'll come back to you. Tom Babukar, we're talking about New Gambia. What is new about our Gambia?
Well, like Mbasi will say, to me personally, I have the feeling that the New Gambia is the process of people thinking, like people have the perspective of what has happened, not to happen again. So this is what they felt, it's New Gambia. To me, the New Gambia should have been a Gambia where people will be freely expressing themselves, a Gambia where people can associate or belongs to any group without no fear, a Gambia where people's dignity and life will be respected, a Gambia where people's desire for development will be achieved, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, this is a Gambia where we are threatened. This is a Gambia where life expectations now goes down due to the fact that there is a high rate of maternal mortality, there is a failing health system, there is, and so many other things.
But can we blame the government on that, knowing that they told us that they inherited a bankrupt government, and the process will definitely take time. It can't just heal within 2.5 years.
Yeah, Babuka, but you definitely know that if you have already told us that you've inherited a government that has looted or took everywhere, are you supposed to repeat the same thing that they've been doing?
I don't understand.
Yeah, that has to do with the government official traveling, and they've put an embargo the last time. But is that embargo been adhered to? You're talking about a government that is buying or sourcing materials from any other place, and we are not being informed where we get those materials. You're talking about a government that is donating and giving out people or groups or supporting groups that are only of their interest. So if you talk about the government of that inherited a bad governance, we are seeing the same thing repeating itself. Okay. So it means then the New Gambia is questionable. Is this the Gambia that the people voted for? No. And this is the Gambia that people thought were going to be in a 360 degree, wherein all of us will benefit in terms of development, will benefit in terms of having access to water and electricity. These are basic needs that even when we are coming to QTV here today, light wasn't there. So you see, is this the New Gambia?
It's a process.
Exactly.
And it will take time. It can't happen overnight.
Exactly, that's true. But like, are we working towards that process? Are we? This is the fundamental question that we need to ask ourselves. Let me just give you this quick analysis of things. The total number of activities we do in terms of political activities could have dug a well, could have bought more fertilizers, could have been improving in the health system. All the vehicles that are carrying this fuel, you know, to take you to a rally should have been used to purchase drugs. Where we have people, you know, they're dying day and night. You go to some communities, they don't have facilities to carry them from one village to another village. You go to schools, you don't see tables. So these, us as the Gambia we want, these are the things that we want to see.
I'll come to the Gambia we want issue. Mr. Tal, you share the same issue of, because the new Gambia that we talk about, well, to me, I am enjoying part of it. I have a new TV station that I am working for, with the freedom of speech, you know, freedom of expression. You know, I don't know exactly what your definition of new Gambia will be.
I mean, surely I'm enjoying it. That's why we're having this conversation. I believe the glass is half full, not half empty. I think that, but I think New Gambia is a slogan. It's a slogan, because I still don't know what are the values that underpin New Gambia. Do you know it?
So I'm asking.
No, I'm just asking.
I'm asking.
No, but you say you know what you know it. You know.
I'm enjoying part of it. Our new dispensation.
Yeah,
I am enjoying.
Yeah, we have a new dispensation. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we have come a long way. I mean, from where we were and where we are, it's, you know, we really, I mean, there's progress, significant progress. We have better freedom of speech. The civic space is wider. The fact that we can speak here freely and express our disagreement with government policy in a private TV station, of course.
Thanks to the present government that is facilitating that?
Yes, thanks to us who also put the present government there. Oh. So it is all of us. So, I mean, it is our collective efforts that made that happen. And also, it's also because that we as citizens will not allow anything else to happen again. So we have to put it in context. But we're not taking it for granted. The current government has put in a lot of things in place, which is good for the country. The TRC is a good thing, transitional justice. The CRC process is great. I mean, we will not deny those facts. There are a lot of good things in the current dispensation. We're not here to criticize and bring the government down. We'll talk about the good things they've done, but things that they could do better. That's what we're here to talk about. Yes, I mean, you said it's a process. Yes, we know that Rome wasn't built overnight. It will take time.
And that's my problem with activists.
No, that's not.
Force it on.
No. We are, no. I mean, don't label people. You don't have a problem with activists because you are a citizen. I'm a citizen. We want things to work. We're not disruptors. We want it to work because when it works, we're happy. We have less things. We have things to do. My point is this. Okay. Development takes time, and it's a collective effort. If you're building a 7-story building, you have to have the right foundation.
True. If
that foundation is not right, you will never put a 4-story building. So this is the time that we have to make sure that we have the right foundation. This foundation is good governance and rule of law and those values. Today I posted that if you look at my Facebook page, I said, it is very good to have institutions, laws, but you must have a democratic culture. Without a democratic culture, you can have a good constitution, you can have all the laws in the world, but it doesn't mean you'll have a real democracy. You can take 2 steps forward in terms of passing legislation, but your conduct might suggest otherwise. We want to have a sincere, constructive conversation. It's not about us or them. There's only one here. Yeah. It's not activist versus. We're talking about one Gambia. And in this one Gambia, every group has a say in it. Democracy is founded upon tolerance, which means the dissenting voice that you call activist voice, those are the voice that actually you should listen to. Because those are the voice that is not praise singing, tell you what you want to hear. Those voices are the voice that will hold you accountable. If people were challenging Yahya Jammeh in the beginning, we may not have him for 22 years. So I think we should also, even as members of the press, we have a duty, members of the 4th estate have a duty to hold government accountable. We're not saying be negative. We are constructive. We are here to provide solutions. We're not here we want Adam Barrow to succeed. Because if Adam Barrow succeeds, all of us succeeds. If we feel that sometimes he's going the wrong way, we'll say, Mr. President, with all due respect, we believe that this is the way you should go, and this is why. I mean, I'm an old guy. These are the young people. These are the future of this country. They deserve to have a say in how the government is going, because every day they need jobs, they need opportunities. They don't want to go backward. So in this democratic project, we have to make sure that the very foundation of democracy, the foundation stone is actually is solid. If it's not solid, we'll go back again. We'll have another transition. And that's what we don't want. We want this country to have peace and stability. We want order. We want economic prosperity. That's what we want. We don't want anything else.
Then the issue of the Gambia we want, 2 years down the line, we saw from the Gambia has decided to the Gambia we want. You've made mention of key points within the Gambia we want. Within the 7 or 8, things that you've mentioned, all intact, or have you achieved?
No. I think these are just highlights of some of the things we think should be considered. It's not cast in stone.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not cast in stone. We think that at the very essence of democracy is respecting the dignity of the citizen, because the ultimate power is with the citizen. So the president is a servant leader, serving the citizen, because our taxpayers is what is paying the president. The security guards, security forces are serving us. We are paying them. They're supposed to protect us. So when you have a minister of interior or presidential advisor coming on a podium, they can have whatever. We are Democrats. We understand. You can have whatever meeting you want to have. That's not our business. But when you go there, talk responsibly as a statesman, because people are listening to what you're saying. You go on a podium and start issuing threatening. We want this country to be peaceful. We don't want people to disrupt. But there's a way you communicate. Leadership is about inspiring, not threatening language. For me, I was watching that. I'm like, this reminds me of Yahya Jammeh time. I can never imagine is this so-called new Gambia. We have senior members of government issuing threatening statements against basically young people, referring to April 10 and 11. That is reprehensible. It's insensitive, improper in a so-called new Gambia. Don't you agree with me?
I do, totally. I do. Yeah, the issue of, again, what warranted that was the issue of the 3 years Jotna. We will go into that shortly. But the Gambia we want,
How did you know it is the 3 years Jotna?
Huh?
How did you know?
How did I know it's a 3 years Jotna? That's what the ministers have to say. We bought those water carrots. If anybody wants to demonstrate, we will use that water carrots against you. Hot water, obviously, it's everywhere. Every Gambian knows about it already. They've made it very clearly. Even the interior minister said it, that they want Gambians to follow due process, which I think they will, to apply for permits and come out. But the issue of the hot water is something for another day. It's for another day. Yeah, the Gambia we want. Have we really achieved, what we wanted from the Gambia has decided before jumping to the Gambia we want?
I think you still talking about Gambia has decided, if I may ask. So looking at Gambia has decided, people have decided, and they have decided for various things. Despite the fact that all what people talk about frequently are some of the human rights violations that prevailed during the past 22 years. But people have decided for many reasons. Some have decided to see economic reforms. Some have decided to see the health sector being improved. Some have decided to see the human right and justice being prevailed, and so on and so forth. So I will say some of those things, when you look at it, like freedom, somehow is let's say we've decided on it and we're still deciding, because we're trying to safeguard that what we voted for, that is freedom of expression, assembly. And when you look at economy, still we are still deciding on that. So you can see all of these things we are deciding. So we don't still want to say we are decided, but what do we want? Yes, after deciding at the level of the ballot box. So what do we want now? From Gambia have decided to Gambia we want. So you could see that all of these things, I think you said is a process, but we have not enhanced all this. And we are trying to go towards it. And that is why anything that we see, it is trying to distract some of these things that we voted for, some of these values, some of these issues that we voted for. We tend to feel paranoid, or we tend to come up to at least put the government or alert the public for them to understand that we have voted for something, and we should at least respect that, and we should hold on to that, because like I said initially, people make dictators, and we don't want dictatorship in the country.
Now, talking about that, I will come to Bamako shortly. But Mr. Tal, the issue of the 3 years and the 5 years, I want to sound your opinion on that for us, because it's making headlines, and others are even associated with the purchase of this water cannon and stuff. But what's your reaction to the 3 years and 5 years?
What aspect of it?
I mean, there was a promise, verbal promise made to the public that after 3 years I will step down, we're here to reform, and then we'll go to the fresh polls. I know right now I don't think we can afford to go back to the polls after 3 years, you know, but the Constitution and the MOU, what's your take on it?
I think from a legal point of view, there's no discussion about this. The Constitution supersedes any other law or even agreement. So from a legal juridical point of view, obviously the president is entitled to stay for 5 years, and I think that is the law, and nobody can do anything about that. And as a lawyer, obviously, my position is the president is entitled to stay for 5 years. Of course, given that there's purportedly an on-site MOU or a verbal agreement or gentleman agreement, which I am not party to, that I've heard of. These were politicians who agreed together. I wasn't there, and they agreed that he would stay 3 years, and it was communicated to us. But frankly, when I was voting, I never thought about 3 or 5 years. I just wanted to vote Yahya Jammeh out, honestly. Now, if those gentlemen, now if the marriage is a bit shaky and they all want to go their ways, I think the decent thing is to come back and say, look, we agreed 3 years, but 3 years not working. Now you have to stay for 5 years. I think it's a question of just coming back and telling the citizen, when we made a promise to you that it was 3 years, but having been in power, we realized that the transition agenda we have will take more than 3 years. So we are in line with the Constitution. We are going with 5 years, and then end of story. So those who are not happy with that outcome can be allowed to come and put their placard and say, oh, we want only 3 years, and you clap for them, they go and sit down. Those who think it's 5 years can come and say, well, 5 years, and you clap for them and they go and sit down. At the end of 5 years, people have their cards, they can decide which way they put it. For me, I think there's no big deal about this. That's my issue. I don't think this country should be brought to a grinding halt because of 3 years, 5 years. I think it's a distraction. I think this is, the Gambia we want is, what are the issues that can transform Gambia? 3 years or 5 years is not going to transform Gambia. No. Here's a country where the average Gambian doesn't have good drinking water, health care, education. Good education, lack of health care. So many basic are not available. Look at the hospital; it's deplorable. And we're here reducing our entire country's discussion to either 3 years or 5 years. Really, I think we have better things to talk about. I mean, all the parties, 3 years, 5 years. The average Gambian wants their lives to be transformed. For us, that's what we're concerned about. They can do their 3 years and 5 years. At the end of the day, we want the country to be transformed for the betterment of all Gambians.
Okay, because I was going to, go into the 3 years Jodna movement to say, do they really have a cause to,
I can answer that. It doesn't concern me. I mean, to them, they may have a cause. That is their cause. In democracy, everybody has a cause that means something to them. This is why I say, Gambians, you need to learn and understand. Democracy is about tolerance. What is important to you? You might want to protest over bread. I might want to protest over sweet bread. Can you say that your region is more important than my region? No, but I will not disturb you. You will not disturb me. But all of us have a responsibility not to destabilize the country. You can express yourself within the confines of the law. That's why the Constitution says you have right to assembly without use of arms, without threatening the peace. That's what we advocate. Those who want to do it, let the government allow them, and then make sure it's done in a way that is peaceful. That's all we're saying. I stood up for the 3 years Jodna, and yet I don't agree with their position. I stood up for them. Okay. I stood up for them because of their right to express themselves. I'm not questioning the content of what they're saying. I stood up for Occupy Westfield, not because I believe in protesting over NAWEC or otherwise. I just thought that they have a right to express themselves. This is democracy. In America, there was a famous black lawyer who defended a member of the Ku Klux Klan's right to freedom of speech. It's democracy. So we need to understand what democracy means. Democracy is not always convenient, but we have to be tolerant. All views matter.
Sure. All views matter. Tom, you share the same idea of the 3 years Jodna thing. Do they really have a cause to, it's making headlines,
I definitely agree with Sal, because I was there with him when we stood for them, and definitely when we stood for them.
Are you agreeing with Sal because you go with Sal, or I mean?
No, I'm agreeing with what he said, exactly, because if you look at it, we as civil society organization are obliged to represent the people. If their rights have been violated, if you know that they've been forcefully asked to do what they don't want to do, or their right has been violated in short. So this is what happens. This is why we stood for the 3 years Jotna, which we are not part of, definitely. But we also ensure that the government should have just done a very simple thing. With people who are armless, like Saad, just holding placards, leave them to hold their placards, show their dissatisfaction, and go home. That's all. Because these are people that, you know, they are citizens and have the right to say the same thing. What would have happened if other people came and said, okay, we want 10 years? Will they be dispersed? Will they be taken to police? So this is where the questions of what really understanding democracy is. Obviously, if there were people that were pro the 5 years, they will never be arrested. They will never be taken to those process of going to police and other things. So the tolerance there comes in. And we want to build a democratic society. And in building the democratic society, these processes of good governance, this of tolerance and other things needs to be adhered to. If not, you will be pointed. Again, this is what we definitely want, don't want rather in this new Gambia that you said, the so-called new Gambia. We want a Gambia where people have the right of freedom of expression. We want a Gambia where people can be freely to assemble anywhere that they want, and to show their dissatisfaction. You know, protest has been taken in this country as a taboo, which should not be.
I mean, used to it, isn't it?
Yeah, but it should not be, because this, you know.
Negative.
But just quickly, I think we should change the language. It's assembly, right of assembly. It's always, people use the word protest, but it's say you have the right assembly, you have the right of procession, but people just equate that to protest. I mean, it may be a form of protest. Yeah. It may also be a form of supporting a concept. I had to just come in.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just so you can continue.
Yeah, I think that's clear. Yeah.
So exactly. So, you know, I think then, like Sal said, we need to change the name, because there are some things that are being done that are equated to those things, and obviously nobody will arrest them for that. Let's say, for example, a hunting group just distracting every road, destabilizing, and, you know, moving up and down, honestly, wherein even a car can even cause an accident, for instance, and you will not be arrested. So people that holds a flyer or placard just to say, look,
A4 paper.
A4 paper. That is very unarmless than people that takes cutlass and others and started holding big sticks, clapping on the streets. That might even cause an accident. So therefore, we need to look at these things and to tell the government that we are not their enemies. They need to understand that we want the Gambia to work well for everybody. And like we are saying, we want a country where wealth creation will be. We want a country where the health system will improve. We want a country where the education system will improve, among other things. So we don't want anything that will destabilize the country. And these are the rules that, you know, that is governing even the Gambia we want.
Okay, Mbasi, we are almost 3 years into Barrow's government, and along the line, a lot of things have happened. So a lot of marriages have broken along the way, you know, and unexpected to many. Looking into the way things are started, will this not affect, you know, the development process?
You look at. You mean the distraction that is taking
place?
Yeah,
that's happening.
And
the unnecessary ones.
Literally, you said the marriages that have broken.
You know what I mean.
And I want to understand, you talking about the political parties.
I mean, yeah, the parties, the sackings, you know, will it just really definitely distract what we
you know, initially when that was happening, I told my people, like, look, with the trend, because you could see that even before the former vice president was sacked, you could see the distraction. You could see whenever the president organized the meetings, the things he say. Like, you cannot, I mean, from his speeches, you cannot tell what he is doing at the state level. But all what you could hear was what he will have to tell his opponent, what he will have to tell those against him, those he feels are against him, until eventually when he sacked. So I was like, this is going to be the biggest distraction, and that is what is happening right now. So you will see when president organized the rally, what people will say is, or what is being preempted is that it is organized by even this 3 years Jotna. I mean, it is said that it is masterminded by this, I mean, the other party. So you could see the distraction. Now the president will not go to platform and talk to us about development, and talk to us about how to improve the health facility, and talk to us about how to improve the education system. But we'll talk about how to deal with the opponent and tell us that he is going to stay here till 5 years, 2021. Okay, after 5 years. So it's like he is talking to those people like the marriage, the divorce have taken place. So it's like the husband is talking to the wife indirectly. So like you said. So it is not something that we will have to wait for somebody to explain to us. We all know what is happening. So we can see the distraction. Today the rally is here. They're trying to prove a point that I have more crowd than you. The other party is there trying to tell these people like, you never thought you are a visitor in our house. You never thought you will have a house. Now you were looking for alcalship. This is what happened. So you will see the Wolof will call it Garuwale all the time. So you cannot tell exactly what they are planning as of now. And when we cry about our environment, we expect these people when they organize a rally, they will talk to us and tell us, look, you were crying about the environment. The Chinese are here. This is the deal that we signed, and we are making sure that this is addressed. You know, when we cry about our health, our people dying in the health facilities, when we see our leaders organize meeting, we hope that they will talk about how they're going to improve this health facilities, how they will, bring drugs, how they will bring this basic facility that if you were sick, you need not to go to Senegal. But now we are seeing them organizing rallies, trying to prove a point to one another. So it is the biggest, this marriage breakage and what divorce you call it, it has totally distracted. And the trend seems to be continuing. It's going to continue because these are senseless rallies, sorry, I call them. And that is why I said maybe in the upcoming laws, because some of these things all will not be able to, the Constitution may not be able to capture them. But I think the IEC also should also, try to stipulate a time frame for political campaign. Let people focus on development than go into rallies, trying to have ping pong, asking each other fanga touch, or some of those things. It is not.
That was going to be my next question to Mr. Tal. The issue of continuous rallies. We are talking about 2021 elections, and I'm sure IEC have a time frame of opening political parties, giving them the platform to go campaign. We're in 2019 and continuous rallies and without leaders as well. The message that they are sending in the rallies are definitely not useful for the Gambian that we want to see his needs be addressed. You guys are not talking about that, but I have a problem with it personally.
Well, I would like to turn it around. The Gambia we want is a Gambia where we can have a national dialogue. The president has not had a dialogue with the youths up till today. The youths of Gambia were in the forefront of the change the change from dictatorship to democracy. They're the pillar of this democracy. Have you ever had a dialogue with the president? No. So I think the president or his fans and his swappers can have any meeting they want. As a Democrat, it's not up to me to decide what they do or don't do. But what I believe should be the priority is this country, Gambians inspired hope and gave Gambians a collective sense of belonging and purpose against a guy who had an army and soldiers. But our zeal, our passion, our commitment for change was our strength that kept us together. Gambians of all walks of life, all backgrounds, all tribes came together, spoke the same voice consistently and peacefully. And that was beautiful. I expected that as we're transitioning to building a democracy, that spirit is what will continue, because this is supposed to be a transition government. And then in the transition government, you need consensus. And that consensus means you have to be inclusive and bring people on the table. So I think it's not too late. I think going forward, I think it's not too late to come back to the table and ask ourselves where we came from. Because it's not only about removing Yahya Jammeh as an individual. You watch the commissions. There's a systemic breakdown, institutional breakdown. That system is still here. It's not because it's one person. It's not Adam Barrow. It's a system that will take time to change. And for that to happen, all of us have to collectively come together and find ways of making sure that never again we will have a system where you have people's rights being abused, where you have the priorities of the majority of government being neglected, where you have threats being issued against citizenry, because we have put that back. When we say never again should not just stop with the victims of torture. Dictatorship is not only about torture and killing people. Dictatorship is about not respecting the fact that we live in a republic. In a republic, the people are supreme, not the leader. The leader is part of the three arms of government. That is what a republic is. And that's when we say never again, that's what we're talking about. We want to go back to the table. We want to have a national discussion. We want this country to go forward. For it to go forward, we need to talk as a family and put Gambia first. It's not Gambia without leave any political party, any leader, any group. And it's important to leave a legacy. To leave a legacy, you have to make sure that you put the building blocks for tomorrow. When Europeans, the Western countries, they build legacies, they build a system, they do their work, the next one continues. What are you going to do in 5 years, the next one continues. That's what happens. If people want him to stay after 5 years, so be it. That's democracy. If people don't, they put their cards. For me, it's not for me as a person to decide. But whilst he's in power, let him put the structures in place, the institutions in place, and ensure that, because when you are a leader, as I was saying, because the people only attack the president because he's the president, because he's the leader. Unfortunately, it comes with it. So that should not be taken as personal. It's the institution that people will attack. But you as a leader, you would turn around, inspire people and say, look, yes, you can say whatever we say, but I want to work. How can we make it better? So we want that national dialogue so that we can make sure that come this December period, we don't want the December to be a point where we have any instability or any disorder. No group on either side or any side has a right to plunge this country into instability. That will be doing a great disservice to this country. Every group has a right to express their opinion in the way they see fit, as long as they don't plunge our country into the path of division, in the path of destruction. We have put that behind us. We have a horrible 22 years, and we're not going back there again. So that's the Gambia we want.
The Gambia we want. We will wrap up shortly. Babakar, 2.5 years into Barrow's government, so you have your priorities that you think government should definitely focus on, in taking us to another level, from where we've which, of course, if you were to name them, which would it be?
The health sector.
I was surprised with the pronunciation of the minister that every Gambian will spend less than, is it $2? I remember $2 within a year on health, which is alarming when he said it to National Assembly members last week.
Oh, that's a great news. I'm happy to hear that.
I was so surprised when I heard the news. I've never, no minister or health minister before never said that before.
Wow, that's a good news. That's a good. So it means we're going to have access to health facilities.
No, what I mean is we have never spent more than $2 on each Gambian.
Wow.
Yes, that's what the current minister said.
So that's not a good news. That's definitely not good news.
Where is the money definitely going into that?
That's very unfortunate. And this is why I choose health, because if you look at it, if you're extremely sick, to be honest, not that our doctors can't do it. They can do it. Honestly, they have the knowledge. They learned like there are any other fellows that are in other countries. But do they have the materials to do it? For example, if you're supposed to do an operations, in the Gambia, and operations that has to do with life to death, they rush you to Dakar, for instance. We have people who can do it, but do they have the resources to do those things? The answer is no. The second thing is, if you don't have money, you will die. Go to the hospitals. You will see them sitting and definitely lying on their hospital beds, not having single penny to buy medicines.
And I'm sorry for some of these doctors, they'll be like, Doctor,
exactly. Like blaming the doctors or the nurses for something that they have not even known about. But what will happen? Again, you go to places where you will not find even a small health post. They'll have to put people on donkey carts to carry them from one village to another village. In the 21st century of this country, education. You go to schools in the villages. You look at the tables. It has been shown some time ago in a village, in a school in Farafenye, where people put on mats. People were using the mats, spread mats, to learn in the 21st century. So you have nothing to pay us for all the sacrifices that we've done, and somebody is just taking it on his own, that he's the one who did everything. like taking ownership of this thing. No.
Meaning?
Meaning like saying, okay, I am the only person who stood against a dictatorship, like you've heard the president saying.
Oh.
So definitely that's not the case. Everybody in this country, in as much as you were in Gambia and outside Gambia, wanted dictatorship to be out of this country. This is why we all collectively stood against the dictatorship and said Gambia has decided. Like Sal was saying, this was when all Gambians come together, forget about tribe, forget about religion, forget about every other thing, and so nothing but only one Gambia. Why can't we continue with that trend? After 2 years, first, second, third, you know, we've just been hearing them saying, okay, we'll do this, we'll do that. We've not seen the U-turn. Just 2.5 years.
After 2.5 years, out of 100, how much will you rate the current government?
The country, apart from freedom of speech and expression, like
out of 100,
here,
what percentage will you give them?
I'll just give them 25.
Oh no, come on.
I'll give them 25. And that 25 is only for me and you being here. And that is
the freedom of expression.
Yes, and that is not them giving it to us, but we fought for it.
The priorities, what do you think we should prioritize? If you don't, so in not support of the every weekend rallies and what should we prioritize then?
Anyway, I'm not far from Babukar when it comes to that. I prioritize education and health. But looking at the mandate of this government, initially when they come, it's supposed to be all about reforms. And we all know development revolves around good laws and policies. So I will first of all advocate for those good laws and policies to be in place for us to have better development agendas so that we can improve our systems such as health and education specifically. These are my priority areas.
I'll ask the same question. Out of 100, how will you rate it after 2.5 years?
10.
Will you be surprised if Barrow decides to change the BYM to a political party? Will it be a surprise to you?
I will not be surprised. Okay. I mean, as I said, but it doesn't matter what I think about that, because if he wants to do so, he feels comfortable to do so.
He has every right to do so.
Yeah, let him do it. That's fine. Whoever decides to vote for that new party, votes for that party or otherwise. I don't like to dwell on personalities and personal issues. I like to look at the bigger picture. So for me,
and that takes me to my question: the priorities right now.
I think the priorities, for me, the number one priority in this country is healthcare. I mean, healthcare affects the people who suffer the most are the poor Gambians, particularly in the rural areas. Recall when we were doing our Constitution We Want projects, and we went to some of the places, and it's deplorable to see that for 52 years, this is not today, not much has changed for the life of the poor Gambian in the areas of healthcare, education in particular. So I think it's an opportunity for the new government to really, if you look at the budget, I mean, I think a lot more money should be put on healthcare. I mean, look at how much money is put under the President's office in the budget. I mean, I think we should really put a lot more in healthcare and significantly reduce expenditure on government travels, vehicles. I mean, for what? It is unconscionable, really. I think if we are meaningful about changing the life of the Gambian, we should put our money where our mouth is. Take the money, put real money in healthcare. Make sure that every single Gambian has access to basic healthcare and basic education. It's more important than having 4-lane roads or bridges, in my opinion. This is where the money should go. We should be very serious about changing that Gambian. These are things that would affect the Gambian in a meaningful way. And this budget is our money. Most of our budget is taxpayers' money. I think the budget is about 25 billion or 28.
Yeah, around 25.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of we are heavily taxed. We are among the most heavily taxed countries around the sub-region. So we are paying for it, and the rest is just grants. We cannot sustain our country without the support of grants and taxes. The country cannot function. So at least let's put that money into something like health care and education. It's not an expense; it's an investment. A healthy nation is a wealthy nation.
Salutal, Babukar Jain and Mbasi Mane Nyangrada. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen, for honoring this invitation. And as I said earlier, it was a platform where we'll sit and discuss and then, try to would I say gauge after 2.5 years, but I hope you've definitely enjoyed it. Thank you so very much for watching. I am Babukar C. Bye for now.